This video corresponds with your week 2 course project assignment. So again, we're building. Each week we'll just continue to build on the previous weeks. And by the end, you will have material to put together into your final lesson plan. So for week 2, you need to gather your data. How you do that is entirely up to you. You can do it on your own, where I give some examples from, I think it was in the first week. Yeah, it was in week 1. I gave some examples, like if you want to look at the effect of, I don't know, something, how many jelly beans you eat and how you feel after you sprint for 1 minute. So you need to do something 100 times. So you don't want to say, well, I'm going to run a mile and look at, the effect of how many cups of coffee I have on how long it takes me to run a mile, because you would have to run 100 miles and you don't have that kind of time. So you need to find a way to gather data that you can do it in over the course of a week. You can do a Facebook survey, and it would just be 3 questions. You're not dealing with scales or anything like that. Just 3 variables, 1 question or 1 measure for each variable. So if you're looking at attitudes toward capital punishment, ask 1 question. Don't ask, how do you support capital punishment for adults, for juveniles, for rapists, for murderers? Don't ask multiple questions. You want 3 variables, 1 question, or 1 measure per variable. You need 100 units of data. So if you're going to sprint for 1 minute, you need to do it 100 times. So if you don't want to sprint 100 minutes of a day, then maybe do 20 over the course of 5 days, or 25 over the course of 4 days. If you work somewhere, you can look at the effect of something like gender and something else on whether or not, food choices or drink choices that people order, depending on where you work. So feel free. Like I said, I give examples. You gather data however you want, but you need to figure that out. You're then going to enter your data into SPSS, and it's basically like an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then you're going to clean your data. Cleaning your data just means that you've entered it correctly. And cleaning it means that there's a way in SPSS, it's very easy to see whether or not you've entered your data correctly. That's what we refer to as cleaning the data. And then if you make a mistake, you need to go fix your mistake and rerun, which I'll show you in a minute. And I give an example also in the assignment description. So what you're going to submit is a Zoom presentation just like this. It'll probably just be a couple of minutes long, where you talk about data entry, what it entails. You're going to show me the spreadsheet. If you faced any challenges with data collection or entry, you should talk about those, things that maybe you didn't anticipate, things you might face, even if you didn't personally. If you thought, wow, I hope X, Y, or Z doesn't happen. And even if it doesn't, you should still talk about that and say, I thought about this as I was gathering my data. And then go through the process of cleaning your data, which again, I'll model that for you in a minute. And again, you're going to use the share screen feature in Zoom to illustrate your knowledge of SPSS, and you'll be describing to me what you're doing, as you're using SPSS. So I'm going to share my screen now and basically model this assignment for you. Okay. So I'm in SPSS, and notice that before I was in the variable view, which is where the code book was, and to enter data, I would go into the data view. Now guys, this is a side note for you. I do not want to see you enter 100 or more units of data. So please before you do this assignment, already have entered between 90 and 95 of your observations. So I don't have 100 observations in here, I have 50. We are going to pretend that my line 50 is your line 95. So I'm going to show you what I want you to do with 5 observations or 5 units of data. So again, I have 50. You guys need to have 100. And notice that these appear automatically, the variables. So when we created the code book, SPSS automatically generated a spreadsheet. It just didn't know, it didn't fill in the numbers because it doesn't know. It didn't have the data to enter. So you will already have entered between 90 and 95 of your observations before you start this assignment. Okay, so now I'm switching back into, this is assignment mode. This is what I want you to do. Okay, so I've gathered my data, and what I did was I administered a survey on Facebook, and I didn't really run into problems. It took some people a while to respond, but for the most part, I felt like people were honest, although honesty could be an issue. I made sure that my questions were non-threatening, asking people kind of basic numeric values in terms of political ideology and their degree of religiousness. Those aren't deeply personal questions, so I don't think, I didn't really face issues of like insulting anybody or perceptions that people were dishonest or anything like that, but I could see how that would be an issue depending on the nature of the research topic. So I gathered my data and I've entered most of it, and now I'm going to show you how to enter the remaining surveys. So I have a survey here, and the person identified him or herself as very conservative, which is a 5, very religious, which is a 1, and very supportive of capital punishment, which is a 5. This person, moderate, somewhat religious, and neutral on capital punishment. This person was conservative, somewhat religious, and not supportive of capital punishment. This person was very liberal, not religious at all, and very opposed to capital punishment. And then finally, this person is liberal, but not very liberal, not religious, and opposed, but not strongly opposed to capital punishment. So now I've completed my data entry, so I'm going to save this, and because I've already saved it, I'm just going to overwrite it. The output shows me that it was saved. I'll close the output, and I do not need to save the output contents. As long as the spreadsheet is saved, it's fine. So I've now gathered my data and I've entered my data. I didn't really face any challenges, and now I need to clean my data. In other words, I need to make sure that what I've entered here is accurate. And the way to do that is to run a frequency distribution. To do that, I'm going to click Analyze, I'm going to click Descriptive, and I'm going to click Frequencies. These will actually already be on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of my variables over into the variable column to analyze. And then I'm not running statistics right now. I'm not interested in interpreting anything. I just want to make sure that I have a good, clean data set. So all I'm going to do is click OK. And then I'm going to look, and you can see here, N is the sample size, and for each one of these, this is right. I didn't have any missing data, so I had 55 units. You guys will have 100 or more. So you can see that each one of these variables, I have 55 observations, which is accurate. Political view, these are my categories: very liberal, liberal, moderate, conservative, and very conservative. 21 was not a category, so that means my data are not clean. This is a mistake because you can see my response options right here. 21 was not a response option, so I'm going to need to figure that out. So there is a mistake with political view. Degree of religiousness, very religious, somewhat religious, not religious. These are accurate. So they appear to be, there do not appear to be any errors with degree of religiousness. And then finally, attitudes toward capital punishment: strongly oppose, neutral, support, and strongly support. These are my 5 categories, and this does make sense. There's not an extra category. So the only issue I appear to have is there's one observation that I have a 21, and that's wrong. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm not going to save it because I need to fix my data. I'm then going to go into my original data. And I need to find where I have the 21, and okay, here it is. It's for 34. So I then would need to find person 34, survey 34, or my 34th observation. And it's actually supposed to be a 2. So I must have just accidentally bumped the 1. So I just type over it 2. I need to make sure I resave it. Again, I don't need to save this output. I'm then going to go back to analyze and just rerun the data to show evidence that they are clean. The variables are already over there, which is where they should be. I'm going to click OK. 55, same thing. The only thing I really need to double check is the political view variable. And sure enough, very liberal, liberal, moderate, conservative, and very conservative. That 21 category is gone. This shows that my data are clean. So I am now going to save this output, file, save as, and then I'll probably put the date. So it's 16, 0602, and then clean data frequencies. So when I go to do the final project, I will be able to access this. I'm going to save it. You guys save it where you want. I'm going to save it to the desktop. And that is it. So now I know that I have a good, clean data set. So everything I want to do from here on out, I've got good data to work with. So I can start running analysis, I can do recodes, I can create scales. Anything I want to do from a research standpoint, I'm now prepared to do it. I have a code book, so if I wasn't able to work on this for 6 months, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, how did I measure religion in this particular survey? Then I could just go and look, oh, okay, here are the values. I measured it with a 3-category ordinal scale. So I have the code book in case I don't remember, or if I had a survey with 150 variables and I needed to know how I measured something when I'm writing up my methods section, then I would be able to go and talk about how I measured. So I've got the code book still in case I need it, and then I have a good clean data set to work with. So we are now set for week 2. Okay, so I hope that is useful for you guys. If you have questions, definitely let me know, and I will continue to do these video lectures and demonstrations, and hopefully as you're watching me and just kind of modeling what I do, taking you step by step through these projects, I hope is helpful to you. And again, just always let me know if you have any questions.